Hello everyone, welcome to the daily editorial analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy, 9th December 2024. Displayed here are the list of articles that we will be discussing. The first article, Unfreezing Ties. The article is taken from today's Indian Express, which is talking about a recent progressive development in the Indo-China relationship after 4 years. And in this topic, we will be discussing the areas of India-China cooperation and what are the challenges associated with this. And then we will see certain suggestions to maintain a balanced Indo-China relationship. And the second article, Preventing Malaria Using Genetically Modified Parasites. This article is taken from yesterday's Hindu newspaper, which is talking about a significant step that we have made in our fight against malaria using genetic modification. So in this topic, we will be discussing the basics about malaria, which includes the cause for malaria, and what are the symptoms, how it is transmitting from one person to another, and what are the treatments that we are currently having. And then we will also discuss what is the significant step. So without much delay, let's begin our discussion with the first article. Unfreezing ties. We know that India and China both are superpowers in the Oriental world. They can influence the global order too. But unfortunately, since the 2020, the two nations' relations were in a strain because of various reasons, especially after the Galvan Valley incident. This article, which is taken from Indian Express, which is talking about a recent progress in Indo-China relationship. And a few days back, that is on December 3rd, our External Affairs Minister, Sri S. Shankar, also mentioned about the progressive development in Indo-China relationship. So in this background, let us discuss more about the Indo-China relationship, what are the challenges associated with this, and what are the steps that India have taken in this background. So without much delay, let's get into the discussion. First, we'll start with the economic cooperation between the two nations. The bilateral trade between India and China in the financial year 2024 stands at the value of $118 billion. But if you look closely, we can see a trade deficit between India-China trading relationship. For example, the import from China is standing at the value of $101 billion, while the export to China from India is just $16 billion. So this shows the trade deficit that we are having with China. And one thing you have to understand that China is the biggest trading partner of India, surpassing the USA, according to the recent estimations. And what are the key area, or what are the key imports? What are the key components that we are importing from China? First is telecom, smartphone components, and other advanced technologies. So to maintain the trade balance between India and China, the government of India has taken certain significant steps, not only to ensure trade balance with China, but to ensure the trade balance with other nations too. The first is production linked incentive schemes. These are the set of schemes introduced by the government of India in the year 2020 to boost the domestic manufacturing industries. And the ultimate objective of the scheme is to ensure self-reliance and to reduce our dependency on other economies' products. And the production linked incentive schemes are focusing on boosting electronics, pharmaceutical, and renewable energy in domestic industry. And coming to the next, quality control orders and anti-dumping duty. This is introduced to ensure or to protect the local industries from Chinese products. We know that dumping means simply we can say that exporting a bulk of products for cheap price to another country, which has a potential to disrupt the domestic market of that importing country. In the case of China, imagine that China is producing a toy at rupees 50, and India is producing the same toy at rupees 100. So what happens is this China will produce the toy on a larger scale and will export that to India. And in India, the price for the Chinese toy will be around 60, after all the taxation and all. And the domestic products price, or the domestic toys price, will be 100. So the people will go for the 60 rupees toy, and this can disrupt the opportunity for the domestic toy makers industries. So in the case of India, we have something called the Customs Act 1975. So in the Customs Act 1975, there are subsections like section 9A and 9B empowers the government to impose anti-dumping duties if it is necessary. And coming to the third measure, strategic economic dialogue. This is held between India and China to ensure the cooperation between the two nations in the field of clean energy, high technology, infrastructure, and other mega projects like smart city. Coming to the military cooperation between India and China, it is the biggest area of confusion between the two nations, right? So first we have the Corps commander level meetings. This is the highest military official meeting held between India and China related to the border tension, and the 18th round meeting was held in April 2023, and the key focus, or the main focus of this discussion, was de-escalation and the stability of the western sector. So if you look the Chinese border, Indo-Chinese border, you can see three sectors: western sector, which includes the regions like the Galvan Valley, Axiachin, Depsang Plains, Demchak and all, and the center sector. And the next, it is a center sector, it is covering a distance of 545 kilometers. And then we have the eastern sector, and that is focusing on the northwestern Frontier province or Arunachal Pradesh and the northeastern states, especially the state of Arunachal Pradesh. And recently the government of India has introduced border village programs to strengthen the infrastructure in that region, to check the Chinese aggression into that region in the 2023 last year. And these kind of mega projects are taking place in the border regions to ensure the development of that region. That is happening on one side. But this western sector is the recently conflicted region between India and China, because the Galvan Valley, the 2020 clash, that also happened in this western sector only. So it needs a proper attention. And for that, the 18th round military conference, the 18th round corps commander level meeting focused on the stability of the western sector. And then we have the working mechanism, consultation and coordination on border affairs. The latest meeting was held in May 2023, which was focusing on disengagement and the tension management in the border area between the two nations. And coming to the cultural and diplomatic engagement between India and China, even though we had a strained relation with China for the last 4 years, we still managed to revive the cultural exchange through forums like BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So regarding the BRICS, you have to remember one thing: the latest BRICS summit of 2024 was held in Russia in the city of Kazan, and the result of this meeting was Kazan Declaration. So that can be asked in UPSC prelims. So please note that Kazan Declaration was a result of BRICS 2024. And SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the latest meeting of the 2024 was held in the Kazakhstan. Okay, so please note the places, it will be very useful in your prelims. And coming to the field of climate cooperation, we know that India and China both industrialized after the Second World War. Therefore, it will bring them to a common stand when it comes to focus principles like nationally determined contributions and all, because the stand of the Western nations and the developed nations are entirely different or against the the global South. So the China and India has a great opportunity if they ensure their cooperation in the climate change. And recently we have taken certain efforts like at the G20 and the COP29, which was currently held in Azerbaijan's capital Baku, and the both nations addressed issues related to the renewable energy and funding. Coming to the challenges associated with the Indo-China relations, let's see what are those. First is strategic issue. We know that India is a nation which is still following the principle of non-alignment movement even in the multipolar world, but with a certain alterations. So for example, India is trying to re-establish or revive its relation with China, but at the same time India is also engaging with the countries like Japan, Australia and the USA through platforms like Quad to protect India's interest in the Pacific area. So another sense, it is indirectly against the expansion of China or China influencing the Indo-Pacific region. And the next area of challenge is the China's Belt and Road Initiative. So what is the concern? A part of this Belt and Road Initiative is passing through the POK, that is Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So this is unacceptable for India. And another major area of conflict between India and China is the matter of Tibet. We know that the Dharmashala in India gave asylum to the refugees from Tibet, and they are running an exile government from there. So these are a major area of conflict between India and China. And another major tension is the trade imbalance. Like I said, even though China is the biggest trading partner for India, we have a significant trade deficit with China. China's trade import is standing around $101 billion, while India's export to China is just $16 billion. Therefore, we need to diversify our economy to maintain, and we also need to go for other steps to ensure the trade balance with China. So these are the major challenges associated with China. So what can be done to ensure a better relation with India and China in the upcoming days? First, we have to take stance regarding the border tension, and for that we need a proper diplomatic engagement. For example, enhancing the working mechanism, coordination discussions, and upholding the principles of 1993-1996 border accords. For example, in 1993, the India and China signed an agreement called the Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement, which was focusing on maintenance of the status quo of the Indo-China border without aggravating any tension. And the next objective of that 1993 border peace accord was conference building between the two nations. And similarly, in 1996, another border accord was signed between India and China, that is known as conference building accord. This was focusing on conference building, at the same time establishment or establishment of demilitarized zones between India and Pakistan at the same time, or coordinated patrolling between India and Pakistan in tension aggravated area. But unfortunately, this did not get accelerated. The principles of this accords did not come to effect because of the strained Indo-China relations in different point of time in the last 25 years. And the diplomatic engagement is also very important to implement phased disengagement with engagement in the Depsang Plains and the Demchak. And these both regions are located in the western sector of Indo-China border, which is a area of conflict and confusion. And then we can take conference building measures, for example conducting joint exercises, hotline information sharing, and protocols to prevent the further conflict in the borders between India and China. Next step is ensuring economic independence. Just like I mentioned, we have a biggest trade deficit with India and China. So therefore, we have to boost our manufacturing sector. For that, we have to expand the production linked incentive schemes. We have to expand the industrial parks, and we have to provide credit facilities to encourage the small and medium scale producers and ensure their infrastructure needs. And then we have to diversify our supply chains. For example, we have to focus on semiconductors, rare earth materials, and the electric vehicle components. So we have to manufacture, or we have to reduce the dependence on these factors on China. So that will help to maintain a balanced relation between India and China. Then enhancing the exports. For example, this includes targeting the Chinese markets with the competitive products like agriculture, textile, and information technology, and push for better access for pharmaceutical and agricultural commodities. So these are the steps that we can take to enhance our export. And the next suggestion is the multilateral engagement. Right? Even though, like I mentioned, we can have a cultural and diplomatic exchange between India and China through platforms like BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This will be very useful in our in our stand on climate change, industrialization, and all. And aligning with China at the G20 and the United Nations Framework Conference on Climate Change. And so this kind of engagement will bring China and India together. At the same time, we can build confidence in the Indo-China relationship. And the next, we have regional initiatives like for example, recently in last year, the Home Ministry, they established the program called Border Village Schemes, right, to ensure the infrastructure development of that border region. So like that, we can also go for region oriented programs like joint patrolling between using India and Chinese professionals. So this can be done to build confidence and trust at the same time for a balanced Indo-China border management. So in this topic, we discussed the Indo-China relations, the challenges associated with this, and what are the suggestions that we can give while writing the mains answer to enhance the Indo-China relationship. So based on this understanding, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, India and China are not competitors but partners for peace and development. The key to success in relationship lies in managing the differences in peaceful manner. Discuss. So this is a 15 marks question, and you have to write around 250 words. And in the first part, you have to address what are the platforms or what are the situations that brings India and China together. For example, climate change. In the stand of India and China is almost similar, and funding related to climate change. So these are the areas which brings India and China together. And the key to success in relationship lies in managing the differences in peaceful manner. Yes, we can go for diplomatic engagements, like we can use the working mechanism coordination, consultation and coordination platform for to have a peaceful border management. Then we can go for high military official meeting between India and China for joint patrolling and other border management, especially in the tension ridden the western sector. So this can be done, and these are the points that you can address in the second part of this answer. So try to answer this mains practice question with this understanding and post it in the comment section. We will review and reply for your answer. And one more thing, that today we have another article related to India-China relationship in the Hindu newspaper, written by Ashok S. Kant. He was the foreign ambassador of India to China. So you can build a different perspective if you read that article too. So try to read both articles and give the main answer. Now it's time to move to the next article. Preventing malaria using genetically modified parasites. We know that we are living in a global community where we are having n number of problems ranging from wars to diseases. And this article, which is taken from yesterday's Hindu newspaper, it is talking about a significant step that we have made in our global fight against malaria using the gene editing. And what is that significant step? To understand that, we should have a basic understanding about malaria. What is malaria? What are the different types of parasites belongs to the genus of Plasmodium that causes malaria? And what are the symptoms and what are the present treatment that we are following to manage the disease? Then only you can understand then only you can understand the significant step that we have taken using the gene editing. So without much delay, let's get into the discussion. And before that, you have to understand, according to the WHO, in the year 2022, the world recorded nearly 249 million malaria cases. So it is a rising concern, not only for the Africa or the endemic regions, but to the entire world. First, we'll start with the basic question: what is malaria? Malaria is a life-threatening disease caused by the Plasmodium parasites. Then the transmission of this infection will happen through female Anopheles mosquito. And presently, we can say that this malaria is an endemic disease which is primarily confined to the tropical and subtropical regions, for example, Sub-Sahara in Africa and South Asia. And why it is endemic to this tropical and subtropical region? That can be a question in your mind. See, this tropical and subtropical region will experience warm condition during the daytime, and towards the evening they will experience severe rainfall due to the convection. And because of this physical feature of this region will experience a humid and warm climate, which will be very suitable for the growth of parasites and fungus. So that is the reason behind the endemic nature of this infection to tropical and subtropical regions. Coming to the causes behind the malaria, the pathogen, that is the microorganism behind the cause of this malaria, is Plasmodium parasite. And within this Plasmodium parasite, we have various species. Plasmodium refers to the genus of that parasite, and within the genus we have various species. For example, Plasmodium falciparum, it is a most deadly parasite which causes cerebral malaria, which is primarily affecting the brain and the nervous system of a person if he got infected, and that can even lead to death or chronic coma. And then we have this Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria. It is a mild type of parasite. And then we have Plasmodium ovale and Plasmodium knowlesi. Plasmodium knowlesi is a parasite which is primarily affects the monkeys, especially the long-tailed muckwort. But in rare cases, it can also transmit to humans. And coming to the mode of transmission of this infection, it primarily transmits through this female Anopheles mosquito once they got infected. And in rare cases, the malaria can also transmit through blood transfusion, needle sharing, and there is a possibility of congenital transmission. Congenital transmission refers to mother to fetus transmission if a lady is pregnant. And here you can see, in this picture you can see the life cycle of this Plasmodium parasite. See, this Plasmodium parasite, once it enters into the human body, it will be living in the liver of a person for some time, and they will reproduce in the liver, and once they reproduce in the liver, then they will enter in the bloodstream, and again the reproduction will happen in the bloodstream. And after that, the mosquito, especially the female Anopheles mosquito, will bite the infected person, and another development of this virus will happen in the intestine of this mosquito, and this mosquito will spread the infection to another person, another healthy person. So this is a life cycle of Plasmodium parasite. So this is how the virus, and this is how the infection is also spreading, and how this present gene editing or genome modification will help in reducing the transmission of this parasite. So the scientists have introduced two things. First one is the genetically modified mosquitoes, and second is genetically modified parasite. So the genetically modified parasite will die in the human liver itself once it enters into the human body, and it will stimulate the human immune system for future infection. And at the same time, coming to the case of the genetically modified mosquito, they introduced a sterilized male mosquito, which will reduce the expansion of this parasite or the spread of this parasite through female mosquitoes. after reproduction. So the primary objective of the sterilized male mosquito is to reduce the spread of this infected female Anopheles mosquito. So this is how the gene editing presently made a significant step in the fight against malaria. Coming to the high risk group, the people who are vulnerable more to this infection, the children under age 5, pregnant women, just I mentioned the congenital transmission, that is from mother to fetus, and then immunity compromised individuals are also at high risk of this infection. And what are the common symptoms and the severe symptoms of this infection? First one, the common symptoms includes fever, chillness, headache, muscle pain, fatigue, and weight loss. And coming to the case of severe symptoms, cerebral malaria, it is caused due to the Plasmodium falciparum, the deadliest parasite in the Plasmodium genus. At the same time, organ failure, anemia, and even death or coma. Coming to the present treatment that we are using for malaria, first one is the combination therapy, that is artemisinin, based combination therapy, and this is used as a frontline treatment for Plasmodium falciparum, which is the deadliest species in the Plasmodium genus. And then we have other vaccines such as medicines such as doxycycline and melfloquine, and other supportive care, for example, providing proper hydration, blood transfusion for reducing the severity of this infection. And coming to the prevention, we have vector control using pesticides or medicines to reduce the spread of the mosquitoes. Then we are using certain vaccines and behavioral changes that includes using protective clothing and avoiding contacting mosquito prone areas during if there is an outbreak of malaria. And how this genome mosquitoes and parasites will help in reducing the spread of this virus. First, we will start with the genome mosquitoes. They have introduced sterile male mosquitoes to reduce the reproduction with the female Anopheles. And the objective of this is to disrupt the malaria transmission cycle. So once there is less reproduction, then there will be less spread of this female Anopheles mosquito, and that is ultimate reason for the transmission of this virus, right? So the goal of this GM mosquito is to disrupt the malaria transmission cycle. And coming to the genetically modified parasites, we have introduced the engineered Plasmodium parasite. It will stimulate the human immune system. At the same time, it will die. It will stop growing or die in the early liver stage. That means it will not enter into the bloodstream. It will not enter into the second stage of the human body once the person got infected. And coming to the advantages of this genetically modified parasites and mosquito, first one is efficacy, that is higher immune protection, independence, that is reduced reliance on vector control, no longer importance or much stress on vector controlling or reduction, and then cost effectiveness, that is we can expect a long-term reduction in the malaria burden. And coming to the challenges associated with this is the ethical concerns related to environmental and biosafety. And then we have the regulatory concerns, because currently the scientists, they have done this test only in certain areas, but the malaria is a global concern. Therefore, we need a large scale deployment of this genetically modified parasites and in mosquitoes to reduce the transmission of this parasite. And then creating awareness. This is the next major challenge. Awareness means the people may not have a proper understanding about the significant step that we have made at now. So the people will always have hesitancy to cooperate with the authorities for the implementation of the steps or the schemes. So this is the next major challenge. Coming to the certain government initiatives in India to contain the malaria. First one is National Framework for Malaria Elimination 2016-30. The program is aiming to eliminate the malaria totally by 2030, and the major strategies include surveillance, constant surveillance, diagnosis of the people with the symptoms, providing treatment, and strengthening the vector control. And then we have the Malaria Free India campaign. So it is a campaign which is launched to create awareness and against the malaria in collaboration with the WHO and the private stakeholders. And then we have a malaria elimination demonstration project. It is a joint initiative of Indian Council of Medical Research with other agencies to lead pilot elimination models to eradicate or to eliminate the malaria parasite. And coming to the next is the technology interventions. That includes the distribution of insecticide That includes the distribution of insecticides, treated nets, prevent yourself getting bited from these mosquitoes, and promoting grassroots level diagnostics. So to find the infection at the early stage. So these are the major initiatives taken by the government of India to reduce or to manage the malaria infection. And in this topic, we discussed the basics about malaria, what is a significant step that we have taken to prevent or the spread of malaria using the genome editing, and what are the challenges associated with this, what are the advantages of this step. And then we also saw certain initiatives taken by the government of India to manage the malaria infection. So based on this understanding, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, critically evaluate the role of biotechnology in combating vector-borne diseases like malaria, and focusing on ethical dilemmas, technological disruption, ecological disruptions, and policy integration challenges. So we know that the genome editing itself is a part of, biotechnology. It's a significant, outcome of this biotechnology. And we can see that through this gene editing, we can introduce resistant, microorganisms to certain infections. So these are the, advantages associated with or the role of biotechnology in combating vector-borne diseases like malaria. But at the same time, we also have a certain ethical concerns related to the environment. At the same time, it's biosafety, because even though if you make a trial of a genetically modified organism to resist some infection, you cannot expect always the same result in different population. For example, the people are always adapted to their own environment. If you take the Africa, for example, the region with the high malaria cases, the people will have a sickle cell anemia. So the people with the sickle cell anemia are immune to this malaria infection. So even though if you are making a significant step using the principles of biotechnology to combat diseases, you cannot always expect the same result in every population. So it will raise ethical concerns. So it can even have a negative impact on different populations. So these are the ethical concerns associated with this. And ecological disruption. For example, the genetically modified mustards or genetically modified crops. The biggest concern associated with this genetically modified crops, for example, it is the seeds or the pollens of this genetically modified crops can travel for a very long distance, and it can also become invasive species to other ecological system, other ecological area. So these are the major ecological disruptions that can be caused using this methods like gene editing and all. And therefore, when you frame a policy, that should be inclusive. That means you have to address the demand, that you have to address the diversity in various population, and you have to address the positive and negative impact in various population and various ecosystem or in various regions. So these are the ethical, at the same time ecological concerns that we have related to this biotechnology, and its the certain developments like this gene editing belongs to this biotechnology. So try to answer this mains practice question from our discussion and post it in the comment section. We will review and we will reply for your answer. And one more thing, you have to understand that whatever steps we are taking to prevent or to fight a disease, then that should be inclusive. Because last week we discussed one article related to HIV, right? Lenacapavir. The lenacapavir is a medicine which is used to prevent HIV, and it shows 100% efficacy in female. But unfortunately, this medicine is not available in Latin American nations, which raised significant question regarding the uniformity in the global fight against HIV. So whenever you introduce something, we have to ensure that that is reaching every nook and corner of this world. Then only you can have a collective fight against an infection or against any problem. Then only you can ensure a collective well-being. So these are the conclusions that we can give while writing the mains answers to. So try to answer this question. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's editorial analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy, and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time update. Thank you. Have a nice day.